So, as we said, it was they established a Continental Congress gathering together the 13 American colonies, and in July 4, this Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, which, as we saw, summarized the motivation for why they decided to be independent. Okay? So, as we also saw, established this idea of unalienable rights, and the idea that the government is established by the people, and that the people have to change or eliminate the government and establish a new government. The rights and obligation of the people, and establish the rights and obligation, the right and the duty of the people to overthrow a government which is unjust because it abuses, oppresses, and exploits. So it was printed, it was distributed nationwide, and so on, and so crowds in many cities gathered together and destroyed the symbol of the British government. So it was Lockean, as we saw, he took the ideas of John Locke, the founding father of liberalism, and translated into politics, into political institution, to this idea of natural rights, limited government, and the collective right to resist. Then it was Republican. This is the first republic we have in modern time, because at the time there was only kingdoms, there was only monarchies. This was a republic. You know that the principle of the republic is the absence of domination, is the fact that res publica, res means thing, publica means public, so that the political thing, so the state, belongs to everybody. So cannot be represented by a monarch, by the king, because it belongs to all the members of the political community. And the members of the political community must take responsibility for the state, must actively participate in the state. And actively participate in the state means also be ready to serve the republic through your life. Fight for the republic, to be able, to immediately take the army, take guns, take all the weapons you have in order to protect the country, the republic, because republicanism is founded on patriotism. Patriotism means you must be ready to fight for the republic. And as we see, this also means that you must be ready to overthrow the government when the government becomes unjust. This is why we know that in the United States of America, still nowadays, they have written in the Constitution that every American citizen has the right to bear arms. This is a huge debate, in the United States of America, because they have a big problem with people. In the United States, you all know that you can buy guns at a shop. Like we go to buy a sandwich in front of here in the United States, you can do the same process, to go to a shop and buy a gun. There is no limitation because it's a constitutional right recognized to everybody. But then you have, the phenomenon of young people buying a gun and killing people at university, at school, and so on. So they say we must put some limitation on this. But the Republican Party does not accept it because it says it's a constitutional right, which is based on Republican principle, and we have to maintain that it's crucial for a republic to exist, the right for every citizen to bear arms, because this serves us to guarantee that if a government is unjust, you have to rebel, the fact that you are active and you don't need always to wait the police to fix the situation, and so on and so forth. So it's Lockean, it's based on the principle of liberalism, but it's very much also founded on the principles of republicanism that we have studied at the ancient Greeks and especially at the ancient Romans. So already at the time of the French Revolution, of the American Revolution, the American revolutionaries used Cicero, the ideas of Cicero a lot, used this reference to ancient Rome, that still nowadays the Americans are very much obsessed with the history of Rome because they even see themselves, because they recognize themselves in the ancient ideas of Roman republicanism. So we have these two elements, and we have these two elements. And then we have a third element. So the main foundations of the American Constitution, which is important to remember, are, as we just see, the ideas of liberalism, the ideas of John Locke, which, as we say, is individual rights as a limitation for government. The principle of liberalism are individual rights that are limited government. Limited government is the idea that the government must be limited to the protection of rights, to the things that are necessary to the protection of rights. But the governments must be limited because the biggest is the government, the smallest is. And this remains a very important point for the United States of America, which is a country which is somehow full of contradiction, because it's the richest country in the world. But if you go there, you see that people are dying of hunger in the streets, that is full of homeless people who are starving and who are dying because they don't have health care, they cannot access health care, and so on and so forth. So we see that this is a big contradiction. It's the richest country in the world, but you have people who have no access to health care, who have no access to education, who are really experiencing very severe forms of economic deprivation. You see people who one day are successful, 3 days after they have to live in the streets because they got bankrupt, and there is no, security network guaranteed by the states. Because it's a country funded on the principle of liberalism, in which they say government must be limited in order to guarantee freedom. And so if you establish a public system of healthcare, this means that you have to establish a big system of public bureaucracy, and so on and so forth, and then you have to increase the taxation and to pay more taxes and to make the bureaucracy in order to ensure healthcare for everybody. So they don't like it, because they like limited government. Education, you have the best university in the world, but public schools are very bad, and even dangerous to go there. Why? Because they say people must be free to choose, and the freedom to choose is guaranteed by the market. And if you make public education, you have to make the state bigger and bigger and bigger, establish bureaucracy, and this automatically will result in a limitation of freedom. And then you have to pay more taxes, and then you have to pay more taxes, and the foundation of the American Revolution was no taxation without representation. They believe that taxation is a limitation of freedom of the American citizens. So, liberalism. Then we saw republicanism is the second principle that we saw. So there is the patriotism, the army is very important, this question of bear arms and so on and so forth. And if you see, it's political participation is not somehow, here we have the voting, it's almost a duty for example, in Italy, because this is a very democratic country and so on. Then in order to vote, you have even to register. You have to register before and so on. And so during the pandemic, we had this big discussion because there was the Democrats who said, you have to make people vote from home because there is pandemic, you have a risk if you vote. And the Republicans said, no, if you want to vote, you have to show that you care, that you're ready to go out to risk, even to risk to get COVID, but you have to show that you are an active citizen, that you have to show patriotism, and so on and so forth, as for example, and then afterwards we even had the Capitol Hill insurrection. They didn't accept the result of the election, and the Trump supporter, they assaulted the Capitol, they assaulted the Parliament, but they said that this is written in the Constitution that we have the right to resist, and so on and so forth. So, liberalism, republicanism, and then we have a third very big source of inspiration for the United States of America, which is our friend that we saw last time, Montesquieu, the Baron de Montesquieu, which promoted the principle of, remember, separation of power. The separation of power, so a constitutional system based on the separation of power and on a strong system of checks and balance, or check and balance. So from here we go to the problem that they made the Declaration of Independence, okay? But then they have to establish a constitution in order to be a republic. They have to establish a constitution. It's a complicated matter and introduces us to a new thing, to another important thing we have to study, to another important concept we get introduced to the revolution through the American Revolution, which is the idea of federalism. Because you had these 13 colonies, These 13 colonies, they were self-governed political communities. Each colony has their own rules, their different rules, okay? So, and they have conflicts among them. So can you establish a state between, political systems that are so different, people who are so different? So, another very important contribution that we have from the American Revolution is the Federalist Papers. That many scholars, many politicians wrote, but three in particular. John Jay, one of the founding fathers of the United States, it's the one who was pretty much active in writing the Federalist Papers, and for being the first chief of the Supreme Court, James Madison, John Jay and Madison. So they were very active, these two people, in writing this series of essays. This series of essays, and so it was Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay that published this essay in very important American newspaper to promote this new idea of a federalist constitution. So they say that we have 13 different colonies. It's different to unite them in a single system, in a unique system. So we want to promote a federalist state which put together different states under a central power, but which also maintains some very important local powers in the local states. So this is federalism. Federalism means you have a central power, and this central power exercises some of the most important functions of the states, which are first and foremost the power of printing money. This is a very important power of the state, and you have centralized. So you have the Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States of America is central. So how much money you print, so the most important general economic decisions are made by the central bank, so you can also develop a single market which work economically together, and in which the coins that you have in every part of the United States of America, you can spend it. So most important thing is printing money, central level. The other very important thing, which is defense. Pentagon, you have this central power at a central level. The foreign policy, you do foreign policy at the central level. But then you have a lot of legislation which is developed at a local level. So for example, this is why the right to have guns is differently regulated at the local level. Then education is very differently regulated at the local level. So this is federalism, So this means you have some central powers, but then you have local institutions who are very, 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 very important. This is federalism. It was introduced by this Federalist paper, in which, as you can see, a collection of essays written in favor of the new constitution as agreed upon by the Federal Convention in 1787. So the Federalist paper is one of the most important papers written in the American Constitution, because this is the very originality of the American Constitution. So, Federalist paper, they say, yeah, we have 13 colonies who were organized differently for almost 300 years. So, instead of putting them together under the same rules, let's leave to them some level of autonomy, some level of decision. We put a central president of the United States, we put a central bank, we put the army is centralized, and maybe you have the Federal Bureau of Investigations and central police, but then at the local level you leave a lot of autonomy. Federalism is, a kind of variation of the modern idea of the states. So, and even in the name, United States of America. This means that first is the state. So when you're citizen of the United States of America, you are citizen of the United States of America and also citizen of California, of Wisconsin, of the 50 states you have nowadays in the United States of America. Federalism, it's an important variation of the idea of sovereignty. So you have sovereignty, but you have different level in which this is exercised. So federalism, we have federal states. Do you know other examples of federal states? Russia is Russia is a federation. Russia is a federation. Why? Because also when Lenin made the revolution, he called the system USSR, Union of the Socialist Soviet Republics, because it was a very, very, very big state, and he knew that at the local level the ethnic groups, they had some kind of identity. So they said, we want to make something which is federal, and right nowadays it's called the Russian Federation. It's called the Russian Federation, but actually it's not that. The central power is very strong. So it's called a federation, but it doesn't work as a federation. Other federalist countries. Germany also is divided into Länder. So it's formally, it claims to be Repubblica Federale, Federal Republic. It's not that federal, but somehow, because they have two parts of the parliament. You have the Congress, and instead of the Senate, you have the Chamber of the Landers, in which you have the representatives of all the Landers, of all the regions, which makes this state a bit federal, not as federal as the United States of America. Other federal states, Switzerland is a real federal state. It has this huge tradition of different cantons, which really have different systems. Even the central government is not the central government, it's the union of the representatives of the several cantons. And since it's a small country, they use the federal system to try to exercise direct democracy by promoting a lot of referendums. So they make a lot of choice on the cantonal level, not on the central level, but on the cantonal levels. And since it's small, they promote a lot of referendums because they have a tradition of direct democracy. So then we have where we live, we have a federal institutions, which is still, we don't understand what it is. It's big. We are now, at the moment, we are into this federal state. Which is this federal state? No, we are into this place right now.
Italy.
Italy is not a federal state. It's unitary mostly. But still we're into a federation of states at the moment. Yes. What do you have in your pockets? What is this? What is this? Euro. So the most important power of a state, which is printing money, we do at the central level. We have the central bank, European Central Bank, who prints money since 2000. We have the same currency over 27 different countries. This is a very important principle of a federal state, like the United States of America. Then we have the European Parliament, then we have the European Commission, which looks like the government, and so on and so forth. So in Europe we had the effort to establish a federal state, but we don't understand how it goes because there are a lot of problems. The spirit of making the European Union was, we had so much war in Europe because of national identities. Okay, let's try to make a federation of states in order also to preserve peace. But then you still have national identities, because over the territory of Europe you have people who speak different languages, who have to be different cultural legacy, historical legacies, ethnic identities, and so on. So we don't know where are we going, but you have the European Federalist movement who says we should do the United States of Europe. Maybe one day this will happen. But this is the other very important concept of the Federalist paper. So, through the Federalist paper, they reach the possibility of doing a constitution. So let's see if we arrive at the constitution. So let's say something more about. So Madison used a lot Montesquieu, used the ideas of Montesquieu to say, okay, we need a great deal of competencies, public spirit, willingness to sacrifice for the common good, and so on and so forth. So in the Federalist, Madison argued, okay, the French, they were against the idea of popular sovereignty because they focused more on the rule of law, they focused more on check and balances. So the Federalist paper was based on the idea that a well-constructed constitution would bring blessing to the United States and avoid secession. This was the problem, you had to put together 13 colonies, you have to avoid secession. And to avoid secession, to avoid the separation, you had to make the state federal to grant some levels of autonomy. Then, almost 100 years after, you will have the Civil War in the United States of America, in which the states of the southern part of America will want to secede because they want to maintain slavery. So there was this problem of putting together states and to avoid secession. So the Federalist paper wanted to establish this new government based on Republican principle and on Federalist principle. So we're right to the USA Constitution, which established a genuine federal government, created a solid federal government with its source, by ruling taxation and the powers, how does the army works, and so on and so forth. So we had the American Constitution. The American Constitution is a big new thing. It's a big new thing because it established this new system. This new system, which was not a monarchy anymore, because until that moment we only had monarchies, mostly in Europe. So we have a republic, which is totally new because it's based on the principle of liberalism, on the individual rights, on the idea of a social contract, which means that the empowerment of the government comes from below, and on these new ideas of the possibility of a federal state. So we will get to the American Constitution that, as you know, how does it work, the American Constitution? So it has a short preamble. We just say, I'm going to read you your preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, and to ensure domestic tranquility, provide the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessing of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. So you see, there is a short preamble that again goes to the principles that we have learned through the theories of the social contract. So it says to establish domestic tranquility, and common defense, which is Thomas Hobbes' idea that the state serves to promote self-preservation and common defense, and to establish justice and to establish the general welfare and the blessing of the liberty of the people. So these are the foundation, and then you have the constitution, and then we have the constitution. How is it organized? The constitution. You have the first part of the constitution is how the state works. So it's ruling the legislative branch, the executive branch, the judicial branch, and these are the three first part. And the fourth part is about citizenship. How does the United States citizenship works? And then all the things on the amendment, you know, that you have a lot of amendments on the Constitution which are crucial. And then the first amendment is about the fundamental rights. So this is the American Constitution. You understand that what you have to remind is how it translated the principles of liberalism into political institutions, how it took back the ideas of republicanism that we have studied by studying the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, how it introduced a new principle which is the federalist principles, and how it led us to the first proper constitution. What is a constitution and how does it work? We will focus on this idea of constitution more on Wednesday.